Today we're going to cover percent and change in percent. And in order to do our percent problems, we are going to set up a percent proportion, similar to the proportions we set up the other lesson. So you can represent a percent by writing the part and base as a fraction. So in any percent problem, you're going to have a part and you'll have a base. And we want to set that up as a fraction. Then we will take the fraction and create a proportion with the percent written as a fraction as well. So we're going to represent a percent by writing a part and a base as a fraction. And then we'll take that fraction and create a proportion with the percent written as a fraction as well. And so what will that look like? So when we're referring to a part and a base, we're referring to part of something with a whole base. So the part will be divided with the base in the denominator. And we can set that equal to a proportion of a percent written as a fraction. And so that is going to be your percent divided by the base of a percent. Now, all percents are out of a total of 100. You can have less than 100, you can have more than 100, but the base of a percent proportion is always 100. So you have part divided by base equals percent divided by 100. So the following instructions, you're going to set up the percent proportion that is part of the work and solve for the missing value. When needed, round to the nearest hundredth. Show all work. Question number 1. What percent of 50 is 10? What percent of 50 is 10? So we want to set up our percent proportion. Let me scroll this down. So we are looking for the percent of 50 that is 10. So when I'm setting up my proportion, remember, I always know it's going to be divided by 100 in the second fraction. Okay. And we are clearly looking for the percent, meaning this is what's going to be my unknown. Now you can use whatever letter you'd like. You can use a P, a B, an X, whatever you'd like. But we are clearly going to be looking for the percent. The question is, where is the of 50 and is 10 come into play? Well, we're looking at it here. What percent of 50 is 10? So we're saying of the total 50, what percent of 50 is 10? So 10 is going to be my part, 50 is my base, and we're having it equal to X divided by 100. Now, from our last lesson, Sorry, I went to grab something. So based on our last lesson, we can solve proportions in two methods. We can solve it by cross multiplication, or we can solve it by multiplying by the reciprocal. So I'm going to show you both methods again to make sure you have both methods available to you. So if we are going to cross multiply, remember we are going to take one number from the numerator and multiply it to one number of the denominator. And we're going to multiply across with the other pair of one number of the numerator to one number of the denominator. And when we multiply, we're going to get 50x equals 1,000. Then to solve for x, we would divide by 50 on both sides. And x would equal 20. Now in this question, it specifically said what percent of 50 is 10. So therefore, this answer would be 20%. Let's try number 2. What percent of 56 is 42? I'll give you a second and set that up, and let's double check that you have your percent proportion correct. Now, hopefully you set up your percent proportion like this. 42 divided by 56 equals x, or whatever variable you pick, divided by 100. Now, in this method, if I were to cross multiply, or sorry, not cross multiply, but multiply by the reciprocal, that means in order to solve for x, I'm going to multiply by 100 divided by 1 on both sides. So I'm going to get 100 times 42, which is 4,200, divided by 1 times 56, which is 56, equals x. And then 4,200 divided by 56, which you can use your calculator. Type that in real quick, and to confirm, it is 75 equals x. But to clarify again, we were looking for a percent, so therefore x equals 75%. Okay. And let's move on to number 3. Number 3. What is 25% of 144? What is 25% of 144? So first thing we need to do is set up our percent proportion. So what are we looking for? Okay. We're looking for what is 25% of 144. So we're going to set up our proportion. And we know it's 25 because that's clearly with the percent. The question is, what are we looking for? Are we looking for our part or our base? Now, if we look back at the previous problem, we'll see that we have some matching words. We have what percent of 50 is 10. And the 50 was in the denominator and 10 was in the numerator. Now in this question, it says, what is 25% of 144? So you see how is and of are used in both problems. Well, that actually helps us because when it's asking about is, it's referring to the part. Okay, because as you can see, the is 10 was the part of this problem. And the of 50 was the base, which helps us here because the of 144 is also going to be the base. So the is, of, and percent help us learn which parts of the percent proportion we're setting up. So we're looking for what is 25% of 144. So therefore we're looking for the part. So we're going to cross multiply for this example. So we have 100x equals 144 times 25. Again, use those calculators and we get 3,600. And we're going to divide by 100. Now, hopefully you can divide by 100 without your calculator based on the numbers, but just to double check, divide by 100 and you get 36. Now, the question is, should this have a percent sign? The answer is no, because we already know what the percent of this problem is. We're looking for the part. And so the part and base don't have percent signs. All right, I'm going to write down number 4 and I'm going to have you try number 4. What is 36% of 97? Okay, and again, to clarify, you do need to set up your percent proportion before solving. That is part of the required work. But you can choose the method of cross multiplication or multiplying by the reciprocal based on your preference. Go ahead and try that one now. Okay, let's see how you did. So, what is 36% of 97? Which is going to lead me to a percent proportion like this. Now, to follow the same pattern, I'm going to go ahead and multiply by the reciprocal to make sure that you have both methods available to you. So that means I'm going to multiply by whatever is with the variables. So therefore, I'm going to multiply by 97 divided by 1 on this one. So we get out that handy dandy calculator. 36 times 97 is 3,492 divided by 100 times 1, which is 100. Now, when we divide by 100 here, you're going to end up with a decimal. And that's okay, because our instructions said we could round to the nearest hundredth, which is 2 decimal places, which is exactly what this comes out to be, 34.92. Okay. Hopefully that was successful for you. Let's move on to number 5. Number 5. 125% of what is 17.5? 125% of what is 17.5? So let's break down what we know. So we know 125%. Remember, it can be bigger than 100. Of what is 17.5? So is, remember, is the part. The of is the base. So this would be my percent proportion for number 6. So we're going to cross multiply to show this example, which gives me 125x equals 17.5 times 100 is 1,750. And we're going to divide by 125 on both sides to get an answer of 14. Now, again, to clarify, does that require a percent sign? Again, no, because we're looking for a base, so therefore it is the number itself. I'm going to let you guys try number 6, but hopefully you notice that the examples are set up similar through almost every single case. It's more or less setting up the percent proportion correctly and then choosing your method in which you want to solve, cross multiplication or multiplying by the reciprocal, and then simplifying for the unknown. So number 6, 24% of what is 52? Go ahead and try that. Let's see how you did. So my percent proportion should be 24% divided by 100 is equal to, let's read the question again, 24% of what is 52? So of what is 52? So we're going to multiply by the reciprocal on this one. Now, this one is a great one to show multiplying by the reciprocal because again, this one is where the variable is in the denominator. So when I multiply, I'm actually going to have to multiply by x over 1 on this example, which is a good reminder that when you have a variable in the denominator, this is the method we want to follow. So we have 52 equals 24x divided by 100. And then I would have to multiply by 100 divided by 1 on both sides. Which would lead me to 5,200 equals 24x divided by 24. And you'll notice that when you do that, you're going to get a long repeating decimal. And so we want just to the hundredth. So the number we get in the calculator is 216.66 repeating. And so we always look to the third digit to round for the second. So therefore, x is approximately 216.67. So we're not going to put the rounding sign or the continuing or repeating sign. We round to that hundredth. So hopefully number 6 went well for you. Let's go ahead and try number 7, which is going to be a word problem associated with percents. Okay. Mr. Keppel paid $18 for a dozen whoopee cushions on sale for 20% off. How much was the original price? Okay, so let's set up our percent proportion. So Mr. Keppel paid $18 for a dozen whoopee cushions. Now the dozen just refers to what he's buying. It doesn't actually affect what we're doing in here. So we do know the $18 is important. And then we know there's a sale of 20% off. How much was the original price that he paid? So we can go about this 2 different ways, actually. So we can go about it figuring out what 20% off of the original price was, or we could figure it out a slightly different way. Now, if you think about it, if you are getting a 20% off discount, how much of the original item are you paying for? Well, if every every percent is out of 100, if I'm getting a 20% off discount, that means I'm paying for 80% of the original product, okay? Because 100 minus 20 is 80. And so rather than having to do more work and taking off 20% once I find it, I can find out what 80% of the original price is. And so that's the method we're going to do. This method is going to be a lot quicker. So again, 100 minus the 20% discount means we're paying for 80% of the original price. And so we're going to put 18 over the whole, and we're going to choose your method. You can cross multiply or multiply by the reciprocal. Either method works. Let's go ahead and we're going to cross multiply. So I get 80x equals 1800. And I'm going to divide by 80. And x equals Now this one doesn't come out perfectly. It comes out as 22.5. But if we think about money, remember we always round to the hundred, so it'd be 22.50. So the original price was $22.50. The next thing we're going to learn is change in percent, which also could be called percent change. Which is to express an amount of change as a percent of the original amount. To express an amount of change as a percent of the original amount. Now, there's a formula that you need to use for percent change, and you do need to know how to use the percent change formula and how to use it on any assessments. And that formula is just like the percent proportion. The percent change equals the amount of increase or decrease divided by the original amount. Now, how do we know we have an increase or a decrease? So if you have an increase, that means you're going to take the new amount and you're going to subtract the original amount. Okay. So if you have an increase in price, let's say it's $125, you could take away the original price, let's say it's 100, and find the increase. Now, if it's a decrease, let's say you have a sale price that's now 100 from 125, that means you're going to take the original amount and subtract the new amount. So the instructions are to determine if the situation is percent increase or decrease, then calculate the percent of change. And we're going to round to the nearest hundredth. And obviously we're going to show our work. So number 8, if my original amount is $82 and my new amount is $74.50, the first thing we want to determine is it an increase or is it a decrease? So looking at the price, did my price increase or decrease? Well, it decreased. So that's my first answer. This is a decrease. So then following the pattern, we're going to figure out how much was decreased. So to figure that out, we're going to take the original and minus the new. So we have 82 and we're going to subtract 74.50. Once we do that, we're always going to divide by the original amount. So I'm going to divide by 82 once I find that value. So 82 minus 74.50 leaves me with $7.50. And I'm going to divide that by 82. Now this is going to give you a very long decimal. Similar to this. and it might end before this. But remember, we're just rounding to the 100th. And this is currently written as a decimal. I want to know the percent. So how do we change a decimal into percent? Well, we want to multiply by 100 or move the decimal place 2 spots. So that means this turns into approximately 9 point, and let's look at the next numbers, 146. So that this does not actually end up mattering. The 6, however, does tell me if I'm increasing or decreasing. Well, since 6 is above 5, that means I'm going to increase to 1.5, and this is a percent. So therefore, this was a decrease of 9.15%. Let's try number 9 to make sure we understand that process. Number 9, the original amount is $295. My new amount is $840. Now, is that an increase or a decrease? That is an increase. So therefore, when we do an increase, we're going to take the new amount and subtract the original amount. So 840 minus 295. But we always divide by the original. So I'm going to divide by 295. So 840 minus 295 gives me 545. And when I divide by 295, I get 1.847457627. Now again, this is giving us a decimal. I want a percent, so I need to multiply by 100 or move my decimal 2 places to the right. And I need to look at that third digit to see if it's increasing. Those last 4 don't help me, but that 5 tells me I'm increasing, which means I get 184.75%. And therefore, that would be my answer. So we have an increase of 184.75%, which makes sense because it's almost looking at the price. We have 295 and we have 184% of that. So we're taking that whole amount plus another 100 plus an 84 on top of that. So definitely is going to get me to that 840. So hopefully that works out for you, and good luck on your assignment.